On LCNet, it's a little bit different, right? Because LCNet is essentially the ability through a VPN to monitor at the device level and apply various different policies. So in this case, what we're saying is we're going to ingest PCAPs automatically from LCNet client, and we're essentially going to create a policy that says capture, UDP 53, TCP 80, and TCP 443. So that's if you've done network analysis, that's a BPF filter. It's just a way of expressing what you want from the network. You could also say, everything. Just give me everything you've got. And once you create that policy, they will start, the PCAPs will just start streaming in to your artifact. The convert phase, really straightforward. Again, LimaCharlie understands exactly what the PCAP is. It's going to convert it to JSON. But what it's going to do is that it's going to take the various layers of the packet that it understands and convert those to JSON. So, if it's like random bytes that are in a HTTPS session, it's not going to be able to interpret those. But it'll give you all the layers of the packet. So in the detect phase, it means that right there, automatically, if you wanted to write some DNR rules that look for specific anomalies, in various headers of the low-level traffic, you could do that right there because it gets parsed to JSON. But really, the interesting bit, as I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, is we're going to create a rule that says if I see a PCAP, I'm going to send it to Zeek. Oh, pardon my typo here. So I'll send it to Zeek, and from there, I know that the Zeek logs will get generated and will get re-ingested as artifacts. And we'll get to that. So the retain step, again, super straightforward, except in this case, the interesting bit is, we're potentially taking in a lot of PCAPs. It's a lot of data. So what we're going to do is maybe I'll set a lower time of retention on the PCAP. So I will say, you know what, keep this PCAPs coming in for 1 month. So I know that I can have 1 month of full capture on all my devices. But for the Zeek, the rule where we say, send this to Zeek, we're going to ask Zeek to retain its logs for 6 months, because we know Zeek logs are much smaller. They kind of go straight to, the interesting bits of information. So we're going to have those 2 stages. So we're not ending up, retaining PCAPs for a whole year for kind of no reason. We're optimizing the way we do our storage. And the explode part is, really what I've been, peppering through this, which is there's a rule, sees the PCAP coming in, a request gets sent to the Zeek service, and Zeek does its thing, generates a bunch of log files, ships them back to the artifact, and the cycle, goes over again, except this time you can create detection rules on the Zeek logs and all that stuff. So what does that look like? So here's the 2 components. So the first one on the, let's start with the one on the right. So on the right, what you're seeing is a LCNet policy. So that's just a small policy, YAML blob that you can apply. And this is saying, we want to capture this BPF filter, so TCP port 443, TCP port 80, and UDP port 53. So in this case, I'm saying I want to retain it for 3 days. And, just for added kind of context a little bit here. So the times here is saying, hey, by the way, maybe this is the mobile phone for, my sales people that are, going across the country. So I only want to do this from Monday to Friday, 8 to 6 Pacific time. So the LCNet policies have a ton of ways that you can customize that stuff. So essentially during the workday, I'm going to capture HTTPS, HTTP, and DNS with this. On the left side, what you're seeing is the what allows us to do the explode step, right? So this is a DNR rule where we say at the top, hey, I'm looking for ingest events. And really I'm targeting, so it's ingest events of type artifact event. So there's other types of lifecycle events in artifact event. And the filter I really want is the artifact type PCAP. I want all the PCAPs. I could drill down and say only, PCAP where this header is in the packet and like go into full detail. But here, really, we're just saying all PCAPs. The response part of that detection and response rule is saying, here's what I want you to do when this happens. I want you to make a service request. So a service request is kind of a first class operation in LimaCharlie. The name of the service is Zeek. And here's the request. Here's what I want you to put in that request. So the action is run on. So the Zeek service supports a couple of actions. Run on very simply says, take this artifact and just run Zeek on it. The retention of 30 days. And the artifact ID, so here's what I'm telling Zeek, here's, what artifact do I actually want you to run on? Well, it's the ID that is contained within this metadata event, like this artifact event. So routing log ID, which is the artifact ID of this specific PCAP. So I'm saying run on this one PCAP. So I make that service request, it goes out, and asynchronously all this starts happening.